No matter who you are and where you live, you probably have a strong opinion on pirating video games. You might be someone who doesn't understand why people wouldn't just pay for a game, or you might be a 12-year-old kid who's feeling like a master hacker because he downloaded Minecraft from a torrent site. But one thing is certain, you don't believe piracy is good or beneficial for video games. And that's where you're wrong. Piracy is indeed a crime, in case you missed the subtle hints in various ad campaigns in the last century. Fun fact, this is how I found out about torrenting. And my friends too. Whoever made this campaign, nice job! So even though the media world is constantly trying to convince you that piracy is bad, downloading games has many beneficial effects, not just for the pirate, but for the game developers and the entire industry as well. So let's see why piracy is good. By the way, I will use the pirated version of the anti-pirate ad music as background, because I'm a childish asshole and it makes me laugh. Let's start with the most common misconception. You are not supporting the game and stealing from the creators. It's a common misunderstanding that if you are not paying for the game, you are taking that money from the creators. It's widely ignored that many times piracy causes increased sales numbers. We will discuss that later, but besides that, the fact is that the creators already got paid before you got your game into your hands. These software engineers, creative designers and writers got their salary monthly as everybody else. The only time they directly get money from the game is when they get their year-end bonuses depending how the company closes the year. So yeah, if the game is successful, they get a huge bonus. But still, it means that whether or not you pirate the game, it doesn't impact the salary of any creators at all. What it does impact, however, is the income of the publisher. That is why we saw many times that beloved studios with successful games went bankrupt and closed their doors, while the publishers selling said games become multi-billionaires. The truth is that the publishers are the ones who cry most about that games should be more expensive and we need microtransactions to mitigate increased development costs, while it should be grossly profitable if they would give away their games for free. But I guess this is a topic for another video. So in short, no. By pirating a game, you are not taking money from the developers. You are taking money from publishers like EA, Activision, Take-Two, who are amongst the most hated and wealthy companies in the world. But you might argue that lowering sales numbers by pirating is damaging the title, since in statistics, publishers see lower numbers and this endangers the possibility of a sequel. And you are wrong again. Let's see how piracy increases sales numbers with two examples of mine. When The Witcher 3 came out, I didn't have a good gaming computer and I was unsure how well the game would run on what I had. I wanted to buy the game, but I thought I would rather wait until I get my new machine. Sadly, it only happened years later, and by that time I was able to get Witcher 3 for like $5. But in these years, I did cautiously avoid YouTube videos and articles on the internet because of spoilers. And if my friends discussed the game, I either left the conversation or tried to change the subject. I was not part of the community around the game. Okay, but why is the problem, you ask? Because if I would pirate the game instead of waiting, I would have added to and generating buzz around the game. So when my friends were talking about it, I would have joined the conversation, and together we could have convinced other people we know to play with us. This is the same effect as you can see here on YouTube. For example, if a video gets 1 million views throughout 5 years, it's not going to be too much of a big deal next year. But if this video gets 1 million views in 5 days, well, this video is going to get millions of views in the next month too. This is the boosting effect of the buzz generated around the game. So if everyone who is not able or not willing to purchase the game or prefer waiting for a discount would pirate it, just because they boost the player base and they join the conversations, the fan communities can be much larger with much greater reach. And this has a bigger potential to lead even more people to the title. What I just told you means a lot of potential income for the company, while the loss, in my case, was $5. Just think about it this way. If big YouTubers like Jacksepticeye or PewDiePie are making videos of a game, it will get a lot of purchases, no matter if said YouTuber pirated the game or not. Everybody has a boosting potential like this. Of course, not as great as these famous YouTube celebs, but most of the time, it's big enough to be beneficial for the companies. My other example shows this perfectly. It's Kerbal Space Program, which I admit to you, I pirated it.
Downloading films is stealing. If you do it, you will face the consequences.
Okay, I know, calm down, let me finish. I did that because it is a game that looks interesting to me, but I was unsure whether I would enjoy it or not. Don't like the idea of spending my money on games I end up hating. So I downloaded a cracked version and I jumped in. And oh boy, what a game it was. I loved every minute of it. So I told my friends about the game who never even heard about it before, and we all started to play. It didn't take much time for me to purchase the game. It was not new and it was frequently on discount. And since many of my friends also bought it, my pirating of the game caused a lot of purchases for the company. And not just that, but after being a fan of the title, I was more than willing to pre-order the upcoming second episode. That is, until the publisher, Take-Two, killed and devoured the developing company recently. Now you see the problem? The dev studio who I want to support is murdered by the publisher whom I actually support with my purchase. Because of this, I refuse to pre-order Kerbal Space Program 2, but I'm still open to the possibility of meeting with the title down in the Pirate Bay. The second reason why piracy is great is that it's fighting for freedom of speech and against censorship. There are games which are banned in some countries. In these places, the only way to get your hands on the game is pirating. Of course, you could argue that Amazon and other similar sites could solve this issue, although I fail to see how giving a random guy $10 for a used disc is better for the developer company. We can't ignore the fact that it's not always possible. For example, in countries where homosexuality is a crime, you cannot just order a gay dating simulator online. It's much safer to pirate it with a well-protected computer. It also happens often that in some countries you can only get censored copy of the game. There are many examples of this, but for me, there was a memorable case with Manhunt 2 for PSP. It was a graphic and violent game, and in the case of the PSP version, the publisher wanted to push for a M rating. Therefore, every cinematic murder was blurred out. That was upsetting for me, since the PC version did not have this feature. Meaning, if you bought the same game for the PS2 or the PSP, it was a toned-down, less violent version. You can imagine it had a big impact on the general flow of the game, since if your character picked up a pencil, the PC players were like, "Oh shit, how will he kill somebody with that?" While PSP or PS2 players be like, "Okay, cool, I found a weapon." However, a group of fans cracked the game and managed to remove these edit filters, thus creating an uncensored version available only for pirates. Moreover, it also happens often that the pirated version has more language packs than the original release. Fans create translations for the game for more languages than the publisher, and these are most of the times included in pirated versions. But let's see one of the biggest reasons why piracy is not just good, but also important for the gaming world: unavailability. There are many times when the game is just not available anymore. For example, Telltale went bankrupt a couple of years ago. Because of this, you cannot purchase all the Telltale games online. Most notably, Tales from the Borderlands. With Telltale Games' closure, the license renewal of the Borderlands characters and music used in each episode caused legal problems, meaning it's extremely hard to find the game. If you are lucky, you can find used copies on Amazon or somewhere. But since it was originally released online in an episodic format, the disc version, including all chapters, was bought in limited numbers. And again, it does not support anyone, especially Telltale, if you pay a random guy some money for a used disc. Not even mentioning that if this happens to games, even if you find a copy, you can't be sure that you found a disc version that includes everything, as you cannot purchase any downloadable content later. Sadly, many games are not available like this anymore. Here are some notable examples. Silent Hill 2, 3 and 4 for PC. In my opinion, Silent Hill 2 is the best psychological horror game to date, but Silent Hill 3 and 4 are also exceptional. The PC controls were far from perfect and caused me many angry moments, but I did play these games on PC and I can only recommend them. Or I would, if you could buy them. No One Lives Forever and No One Lives Forever 2. You probably never even heard of this game before, even though it was regarded as the best game ever created before Half-Life 2. The reason you didn't hear about it is that it's not available in stores because of legal reasons. Mafia. In my childhood this was my favorite game, but I lost the disc long ago. Now even if I want to buy it again, I simply can't. It's a must-have game for everyone in my opinion, but if you don't own a copy, you are out of luck. The Godfather. Another highly praised game is a must-have if you like the Godfather movies. It's a surprisingly good adaptation of the original story. Sadly, the movie license caused legal issues, and because of this, the game is not available for purchase anymore. The original Prey. Another game which was considered as an important piece of gaming history, Prey had truly unique game mechanics which inspired future game developers. But this cornerstone is one you can't experience yourself anymore. Devotion. Also a great horror game which left critics and players stunned by sadly was erased from the gaming world. Why? Because data miners found a placeholder image in the game files, and this image was so unacceptable, so infuriating, that the upcoming backlash was unstoppable. If you are faint-hearted, I recommend skipping this reveal. Are you still here? Okay, the image was a stylized version of the Winnie the Pooh meme. You know, the one about how the Chinese president looks like Pooh. Yeah, so this is the reason you cannot play this game anymore. There are many more games like this, but just mention a few. Deadpool, Wolfenstein, a bunch of Spider-Man games, a bunch of Lord of the Rings games, and many more. These games you can't play anymore, or should I say, can't play anymore legally. So don't worry, they are not lost forever. You can be sure that you can find them down on the pirate ships. But for me, the most heartbreaking example of this is Silent Hills PT. This game was removed from the PS Store, and since it was only released digitally, it is impossible to get anymore. Therefore, an actual PS4 that still has PT installed on it worth thousands of dollars on Amazon. However, you can still download the game from pirating sites. Sadly, you need a cracked PS4 to run it, and it's extremely problematic. But in the PC world, where pirating is easy, deleting games in this way is unimaginable. Because of piracy, in the future when PCs can be powerful enough to run a fully functioning PS4 emulator, you will be able to play with PT yourself. But even in current days, you can find emulated, unofficial versions to experience this great horror game. This is an issue that will be much worse in the future, because many games today are only digital releases, and publishers can simply choose to pull the game from the stores anytime, as they did with PT. The only thing that protects the gaming world from that is pirating. And saying this, we arrived at my last topic. As we talked before, it's always problematic to find a version of the game which includes every content you are looking for. Sometimes even separate season passes or Game of the Year editions do not include all DLCs and cosmetics. Pirated games are not just free, but in most cases they include everything in the package. DLCs, skins, pre-order bonuses, everything. Even if these bonuses are not available anymore in stores because they are exclusive to pre-orders or different editions. It's obvious why it's good for the pirate, since he can get a version of the game that most of the players never even saw. But it's also good for the entire gaming community. How? In the past couple of years, many gaming companies wanted to push their pre-orders, so they included exclusive things in the pre-order versions which were not available in any later editions, so they could not be purchased later. Meaning that if you heard about the game a couple of months later, you had no chance to purchase the game with these extras, unless you pirated it. Since the companies realized that it's a great reason to pirate the games, they tend not to do this anymore. So nowadays, Game of the Year editions and other similar versions usually include most of exclusive content, if not everything, and pre-order bonuses are generally toned down to a couple of cosmetics. There you have it. These were a couple of reasons why pirating is beneficial for the gaming community. But what is your position on this? Did you ever download the game? Share your thoughts and subscribe.